fish meal and fish oil happens to be sort of the perfect combination of those micronutrients.
If you took fish meal away, this would have a very serious effect on the aquaculture industry in the world.
The reduction fishery is very sustainable.
And people talk about fish meal replacements. Well, there really aren't fish meal replacements because no one ingredient is going to have everything the fish meal has.
We look at aquaculture as one form of agriculture. In the 2010 dietary guidelines for Americans, it was recommended that Americans eat 2 servings of seafood per week. That's for good health. It's a very important food production mode. Aquaculture growth worldwide has been about 8% per year for the last 25 years. So whereas aquaculture used to produce a fraction of seafood, today about 50% of seafood consumed by humans is coming from aquaculture, and that's slated to continue growing. So we're going to need to produce more and more seafood through aquaculture. So if we talk in terms of aquaculture for food production, it has really a fairly long history in the United States, but scientific work to increase the production of aquaculture species is much more recent. We have a number of labs across the country that are working in fish nutrition. However, it's really the Bozeman lab led by Rick Barrows where our work on alternative ingredients is centered, and Rick has a very unique facility in that he can duplicate commercial production procedures and give us feeds that are very similar to what the commercial feed producers will be using.
For decades, the first couple decades of fish farming, all the diets contained very high levels of fish meal because it's a very good ingredient. Fish grow really fast, and it made nutritionists lazy. We didn't have to really know what nutrients they required. But as aquaculture has expanded, we need more and more alternative proteins because the fish meal supply is limited. The goal of the research program, ARS research program at Bozeman Fish Technology Center, is to more efficiently utilize the fish meal and fish oil supplies that we have. And to do that, we have to find alternative ingredients so that the total amount of feed we produce each year can continue to increase.
You and I, like fish, need 40 essential micronutrients. And forage fish in the form of fish meal and fish oil happens to be sort of the perfect combination of those micronutrients. So that's why it's traditionally been used in feed for fish and for shrimp. But those 40 micronutrients are available from a wide variety of products. The challenge and what scientists have been doing, working with industry, is to put that Rubik's Cube back together again.
Fish meal is important because it carries with it so many micronutrients that we don't get from other ingredients. And we are still trying to figure out what all those micronutrients might be, and to the fish farmers for alternative feeds, as we have to modify the formulas if we're going to continue to grow.
In terms of using fish to feed fish, there's been a lot of attention in the media looking at the use of those marine ingredients, and that it's not a good use of materials to feed fish to fish. But the reduction fishery is very sustainable. Over the last 30 years, it's been supplying a reliable source of marine proteins and oils, which are very valuable ingredients.
What a lot of people don't realize is that fish, all fish, even herbivorous fish, are in fact carnivorous when they're young. You can see them nibbling at the plant, but actually what they're eating off there is actually the little zooplankton that is living on the plant. And they're getting a high protein diet from this zooplankton. So when you have to mimic that in a hatchery, fish meal is an ideal ingredient. And that is where fish meal is going to be increasingly used. So aquaculture will over time be able to grow but the fish meal will still be at the base of aquaculture. And if you took fish meal away, this would have a very serious effect on the aquaculture industry in the world.
And people talk about fish meal replacements. Well, there really aren't fish meal replacements because no one ingredient is going to have everything the fish meal has. It has vitamins, minerals, specific amino acids that other plant-based ingredients don't carry. So we have to supplement those. A plant-based diet will have probably 18 ingredients, or a fish meal-based diet might have 7.
Fish meal plays a very important role as an ingredient in many forms of both agriculture and aquaculture. If we take something like, there is currently produced something like 5 million tons of fish meal. So from that 5 million tons of fish meal, there is probably, there's something like 35 million tons of fed aquacultures grown, and then we've got all the pig and poultry, and if you add up all of that together, you're getting something like 300 million tons of food for humans around the world is produced from that 5 million tons. And that 5 million tons is coming from something like 15 million tons of forage fish. So for me, I think it's a reasonable trade-off, so long as things are being done in a proper, responsible, sustainable way, to trade off that 15 million tons against this 300 million tons of food for humans.
The oil is really difficult to replace, much more difficult to replace than the meal, because we know we have some good proteins, but it's those other micronutrients that are important.
As I've already said, we've seen a rapid growth in the use of fish oil for nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals. This is fundamentally because we're getting increasing amounts of scientific evidence on the importance of these long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, and the role that they play in human health. EPA has been shown to be very important for the heart and for blood vessels, and DHA is very concentrated in the fats in the brain. So those two fatty acids are very important to human health, and there's a growing amount of scientific evidence on this, and people are realizing that they don't eat enough fish to get the DHA and EPA that they require.
If we didn't include those fatty acids in the diet, fish oil or algal oil in the diet of salmon, then they wouldn't be carry that heart healthy and brain healthy fatty acid to the consumer in the final product. Fish oil relates to the flavor of the final product, and we can reduce the amount of fish oil to the level that the fish requires it, but it changes the flavor of the final product.
So fish oil in particular is very important. There are some alternatives. They're expensive. Fish oil is increasingly being reserved at either end of the production process as a diet for the broodstock, the mamas and the papas, and the larvae or the babies, and then as a finishing diet at the end of the production cycle, so that you and I get those nutritional omega-3 type benefits.
If you don't feed any fish oil to fish, they grow very slowly and die eventually of an essential fatty acid deficiency.
Fisheries like menhaden's will have their ups and downs over the years because of various environmental conditions. As I said, the real challenge is I think that fish oil and fish meal will continue to play an important role in the diet for fish and for shrimp. But because of its limited supply worldwide and because of the increased demand for seafood, other ingredients are going to have to be combined with that and to be able to satisfy this growth in aquaculture.
I believe there is a link that the information developed in the laboratory is being adopted by industry and helping them more efficiently use fish meal and fish oils through the development of other products such as barley protein concentrate. Some of the soy products we've evaluated, they can blend those better and stretch the fish meal supply out.
Aquaculture is important because it looks like it's really going to be the future in seafood. While people are critical of catching of wild fish, but also critical of aquaculture, I think that we're going to see a breakthrough soon that's going to basically show us that we can be environmentally friendly with aquaculture, and while we're always going to have a place in our wild seafood, aquaculture is basically going to be the most consistent thing in the future.
You know, the point about seafood is seafood, and way too often there's been an aquaculture camp and a wild capture camp, and I think that we have to recognize that seafood is, all sustainable methods of production are needed, whether it's wild capture or aquaculture. Sustainability so that we can continue doing what we're doing without impacting the future generations negatively is important. So this is part of what Andrew Jackson's award was about, is engaging the environmental communities in discussion, because nobody has all the answers. We really need to work together on that.